A lot of people, they live in a cage of unimportance. Okay, they live in a cage of unimportance. And a lot of people don't understand how serious that is. Taking away meaning from somebody and taking away importance from somebody is actually more dangerous to them than actually killing them. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. I'm gonna break it down to you. Let's say hypothetically there was a fighter, okay, and say this fighter, okay, they get knocked out, they lose the fight, and they retire, right? Okay, they lose their fight, they retire, then they can go become a coach, and they can train other people to not be in the situation that made them lose their career. So they can still continue their purpose even though they got defeated in the ring, right? So it's levels to this thing. Say there's a fighter, okay? Say there's a fighter, and then that fighter say they get killed somehow. Okay, say somebody kills them. Say somebody doesn't like the fact that they went in a bad, corrupt promoter or something like that. They end up in the back alley. They run in their mouth, somebody else run in their mouth, and somebody end up shooting them. Okay, so guess what? This fighter, okay, through their death, their legacy live on, and their legacy can continue to teach people. Their legacy can continue to encourage people. But here is a worse scenario. Say you take that same fighter and you take away the meaning from him. Then he never develops into a fighter. Then he never becomes a great fighter. Then he starts sitting on the couch and doing nothing with the rest of his life. Letting his talents waste away. Letting his muscles atrophy. To that man, by taking his meaning away and his reason for fighting, you done worse to that man than actually killing him. Because if you would have killed his body, his legacy would have continued to be able to teach people. That's why meaning is so important. If you understand the meaning behind that, there's so many people that had so many ideas that they kept in their own mind and they never got out there and used them that could have enriched the world. That's what will happen if a person loses their meaning in their own life. So how do you extract meaning out of everything? Okay, that's the question. How do you extract meaning out of everything? How do you get meaning out of your own life? You get meaning out of the definition, okay, of what something is. Y'all probably didn't catch that. You get meaning out of the definition of what something is. That's how you derive meaning. See, I use meaning and definition as synonyms because they're one and the same. You derive meaning based on the definition. All right, check this out. I'm about to break it down to you. This deep stuff right here. The same person that's searching for meaning in their life is the same person that's looking for how to define their life. Just like if you look up a word and you want to know its meaning, you look up what the definition of the word. And then when you figure out the definition of the word, then you know what its purpose is. Then when you understand what the purpose of that word is from its definition, then you can properly apply it to where it needs to go. So then check this out. Then that word has meaning because you understand its purpose and you understand how it's defined. That's how this thing works, and it works the same with people. Check this out, it's about to get deep. A person that don't have meaning in their life is a person that don't have definition to their life. They don't know who they are supposed to be. They don't know what they are defined to be. And when a person lacks definition in their life, they feel aimless, they feel lost, they feel without purpose. But once a person is able to find their definition for their specific life, then they know they have their purpose and they have meaning in everything that they do. And the more richly you understand the definition of your own self and the definition of your own life, the more meaning you have in every single step that you take. Because the steps are in according to the meaning and definition of the path that your life is supposed to be. I'm about to break it down to you. About to break it down to you further. One of the main assignments that God gave man in the garden, one of the main assignments, name the animals. That's one of the main assignments he gave. Name the animals. It is within our person, okay, to name and categorize things. And a lot of people underestimate how important that is. Okay? A lot of people underestimate how important that is. When you name and categorize things, then you can manage things. You see what I'm saying? When you name and categorize things and you understand the definition, then you can properly manage things. You see almost every problem in the world, okay? Almost every problem in the world is based on something operating outside of its definition. Almost every problem in the world is based on something operating outside of its definition. Okay? Say you have somebody that's robbing people. Okay? So you have a citizen. Okay? You have a citizen. And what we define as a citizen that's supposed to uplift society, they're operating outside that definition. Okay? By robbing and stealing from people. Instead of buying goods, selling goods, and helping the economy and helping the society conduct a certain type of order. So by stealing, they operating outside their definition. So check this out. Because they operating outside their definition, now they got to be put back in order. Now they get put in prison. Okay? But check this out. The prison is against the definition of what a man is supposed to be like. A man is supposed to be able to be free, be able to roam around. But when the man was free, he wasn't in his proper definition. So now he has to go in another definition because he wasn't operating in his definition of what he was supposed to be in before. So he had to be put in order. Say you got somebody kidnapping people. The definition of what a man is supposed to be, they're supposed to protect somebody. And so when they go against that and they kidnap people, they outside their definition. And then that's what create a problem. Say you got a politician that's misappropriating funds. They operating outside their definition of what they're supposed to do in their political office. And that's what make it a problem. But here's where it comes into conflict. Different people had different definitions of different things. So then you have conflicts. Okay, you have conflicts. Check this out. I'm gonna tell you how important definitions are. You have conflicts between two nations because one person think the definition of the end of their country is right here, but another country think the definition of the end of their country is over there. Now they're in a war. You see what I'm saying? That's how powerful definitions are. But see, check this out. When a person has more enriched definitions, you see, if the two people that are warring against each other on other sides of the national divide, if they had a better definition of, hey, we supposed to be humans, we supposed to be working together, we the same species, we in the same geographical region, we use the same resources. If they followed that definition, they wouldn't be outside their definition and trying to kill each other and be in war with one another. It's all based on the definitions. And so with the definitions, check this out. With the definitions, you can derive purpose and meaning out of anything. And I'm gonna show you how it works. I'm gonna show you how this works. You got something over here. You have a soccer goal. The soccer goal, in its definition, is you know, you can look it up Webster's, but we gonna use loose definitions here. But the soccer goal is made to be able to catch the ball to signify that the other team is scored. And so check this out, because that's what the definition of is, okay, it's made in a square, rectangular, tubular frame with a net in it, okay, and so based on what it is, it can serve the purpose of scoring that goal and catching that ball, so that the ball don't fly all the way to the other side of the field. Okay, that's its purpose and its definition. Okay, now check this out. Now we come over here. Okay, we come over here to this other goal, and so now this goal over here. Okay, this goal over here, it hasn't been maintained. So for whatever reason, perhaps because somebody roughhoused on it, perhaps somebody hit the ball too hard, perhaps somebody was swinging on it, perhaps somebody was doing something with it that it wasn't designed to do, so therefore it broke down. Because if all they did was play soccer in it the regular way, at the normal pace and the normal speed, this wouldn't have broke down. Or if perhaps they didn't put the pieces on right, and they didn't put them in their correct slots, or they didn't fasten them enough. Either way, it operates outside its definition. So because it operates outside its definition, it failed to be maintained. Now I can derive meaning from that. I can see in the same court, I can see in the same field, when I maintain myself in the definition of who I am, I can be what I'm supposed to be over here with this goal. So when I look at this goal over here, this will maintain the definition of who it is. But when I look at this goal over here, it didn't maintain the definition of who it is. So I can derive meaning from that. If I don't maintain who I am, I'm not going to serve my function and my purpose. And I'm not going to have the same meaning in my life than if I had maintained my purpose and did the definition of who I'm supposed to be. Okay? Check this out. You have people, sometimes they work in a job in the office, they work in a manual labor job, they in a dead-end marriage, they in a hard relationship, they in all kind of situations where they being abused one way or another. They abused because they trying to get out of certain debt, so they have to work long hours that maybe that's too much for their body. Okay, or they're abusing themselves with drugs, or too many pleasures, or watching too much TV, watching too much social media. All of these things, okay, can take away a person feeling a meaning in their life, because they're not following the definition of who they are. Okay, and check this out. The way you find the definition of who you are, you got to go back to the source. You got to go back to the maker. You got to go back to who made you, who created you. And when you follow the maker, you seek the maker, you find a more rich definition of who you are. But when you go around looking at definitions, okay, we gonna look at this over here. Just like these basketball goals over here. These basketball goals, okay, these basketball goals are set to a particular height for the children to play basketball at a height according to themselves. But if these children stay at that particular height and they don't move to the other side of the court where it's at least 9.5 or 10 feet goals, it's one of the two over there, they're not going to develop the skills and handles they need and accuracy they need for playing the game of basketball. Because check this out, they made the be this way for one thing, and it served one purpose. But if somebody stay in this too long, then they won't be able to serve their other purpose on the other side. I can look at the definition of what these things are and derive meaning and give it to myself as I'm looking at these things. I can look at that and say, if I'm in a situation in my life where I'm a big fish in a small pond, I'm not going to be able to play in the big leagues and do the big things and follow the big goals of my life if I don't sit there and go to where the hard opposition is. Somebody can get meaning out of the definition of what these basketball goals are. All based on looking at what the definition of what something is and watching the decay of what that is when they don't follow the definition.
Just like if somebody was a grown man and they start playing basketball on these goals, somebody gonna look at them funny. They gonna look at him funny because that man operating outside his definition. You playing on the kids' goal, you dunking on kids, but you ain't dunking on the man goal. You outside your definition. You see what I'm saying? So just like we go over here, okay, we can get purpose from the ants. If we look at the ants on the ground, we can get purpose out of them. The way the ants team together, the way the ants hold themselves up, put their bodies on one another and make body bridges to get the things that they wouldn't be able to reach by themselves. The way that they follow orders, the way that they team together, the way that they huddle together. The Argentine ants. I had heard one time that the Argentine ants, if you drop off an Argentine ant anywhere in the world, that Argentine ant will be welcomed by the same species anywhere in the world. They'll just be welcomed and brought in. And yet we can get meaning out of that because it's a better definition of how humans ought to be. It's a better definition of how humans ought to be. We can get meaning out of that because we see something in its environment doing what it's supposed to be. Just like these bricks over here. Just like these bricks over here. Each one of these bricks, each one of them do their purpose. Each one of them, because they in line and the other one is in line and the other one is in line on top of that, they allow the whole structure to be able to be solid. And you put enough bricks together, you make a pillar. And then when you make a pillar, the pillar can be stationary so that people moving around, they don't have to worry about nothing because the pillar is stationary. It stays in its definition and its purpose of what it's supposed to be. But what if the brick decide, I don't want to be no brick no more. I want to move around. I want to run around with the kids. I want to play basketball with the kids. I want to be a soccer ball. Then the whole building come apart because it come outside its definition. But yet somebody can look at these bricks, they can look at that pillar, and they can describe the same to themselves. You can see a man taking the bricks, taking the pillars, and say, hey, I gotta be a pillar. I gotta be the one to hold up my family, support my family, so my family can move around and not think about the bills, not think about anything that's going on. It just be on the weight of my shoulders, just like this pillar right here. Looking at the definition in its proper function of what it's supposed to be to derive meaning. They help you define who you are. And ultimately, you can only go so far with yourself. But when you take it all the way back to the source, to the maker, then that's where you find the definition.